Life in 3 dimensions got me bent and got me twisted. I know I done said a lot, but I should probably stop pretending. I don't really hold the key and I can't really push a button. I just step up to the mic and try my very best to bust it, but I ran out of breath. It's tight in my chest, my feet just might fail. I can't stand up pressure.
All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Racially Speaking. This is your host, David Phipps. I'm excited to be with you guys. Before I jump in, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the show. And if you'd like to take it a step further, for as little as $1, $3, or $5 a month, you can support the show financially at patreon.com/racially speaking. For as little as $1 a month, you can be a part of supporting what goes into the work behind this show. All right, that's it. That's a pleasantries from me. If you're watching, which you should, please make sure to subscribe on YouTube, and you can of course watch on Spotify and see our lovely guests. I'm going to utilize all of her time, so I'm just going to cut right to the chase and introduce her. This is such a privilege. Shout out to my mother for connecting us way back whenever we met for the first time. But I'm joined by Princess Perry, longtime college professor at ODU, of creative writing, and I don't want to say more importantly, newly importantly, published author of her debut novel just this past in 2025, and was it August, right?
August 5th. I'll never forget that date.
August 5th, yeah, 2025. So I just a privilege of being joined by an amazing person, Princess Perry. So Princess, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you. And please note my delightfully beautiful backdrop quilted by your mother.
Yes, of course.
I don't know if you can see it. It's got dragonflies in it, which are my favorite insect. So she did that specially for me.
That's great.
Yeah.
Shout out to Anita Harris, my mom and Princess's good friend.
Good friend.
Yeah, I'm in my basement, which is where we also keep all of our junk, and so I don't of course don't have any of the quilts down here, so you can't see any in my background.
That's okay.
They're scattered all over our house and my kids' rooms.
That's good. Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Shout out to Anita.
Yeah, shout out to Anita. Okay, Princess, I have so many things I'd want to ask you and talk to you about. A little before I hit record off mic, we kind of discussed your book. I've of course read it at this point, and just phenomenal.
Thank you.
Phenomenal work. Really moving. But yeah, before I hit record, I said, look, I want you to come on and talk about your book, but also I want people to read it. I don't want to give stuff away. So many of my questions are going to be broad overview from you about, what the book was about, kind of what the inspiration and dedication that went into it, and then really talk about the themes that I love to ask you questions about the themes I took away from it. I'd wonder what your thoughts are on how it can and should inform where culture is at right now. So look, first, can you tell the listeners a little bit about yourself, who you are, and kind of what informs your overall work?
That's a good question. So I am a creative writer. I write, of course, fiction. Got my degree in in 1998. I got my degree, and slowly, I think from graduate school till now, probably in graduate school, I figured out that racism, racial relations, those were the things that really interested me. Like, how did we get here? We have all these different narratives about concerning me. We have all these different narratives that I've seen over the years about African American people, about Black people, and I've always wondered, I guess, or maybe I got to a point in my young adulthood, why we never mention the backstory, the things that brought us to this point. And so those are the things that kind of took my interest, and I wanted to read about. I love history. I grew up in North Carolina in a little, from the times I was from 7 till about 14, I lived in North Carolina. Okay. It was a little town. I would call it a segregated town, and it's the town where my grandmother worked as a housekeeper for a housekeeper and a cook for the banker in town, and of course he was a white man. And there are parts of that town still that I've never actually like driven through, and I always wondered, like, where do these separations come from? What's the backstory? How did we get here? And no one says anything about
Hmm.
it.
Okay.
In the town in front of the courthouse, there's still like a Confederate soldier right in front of the courthouse. And to me, that matters. Like, how is that happening? And why is no one
Yeah.
saying anything? So
Is that
that's
still is
basically,
that still today?
that is still today.
Still
That is
today.
still today. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, that's great. I'd wonder how long did you know you were going to like when were these kind of racially conscious thoughts and observations starting to form? Because I'm just thinking about what's going on now and how racially
Mhm.
charged the
Everything is.
everything is, but that seems like it's you didn't just have that realization in the last few
No,
years, obviously. So I'd
no.
wonder how how young were you when you started to realize, okay, this is going to inform my not just my personal life but my professional life?
I think I was in my mid to late 20s, and really that's when I started writing about this. Um as a child, I think my first real realization of the history, the past of enslavement, and that it was like right there in the middle of us and no one was saying anything about it. I think I was in maybe the fifth grade, and I went on, they took us on a field trip to this, it is still there as far as I know. It's called Hope House Plantation,
Hmm.
and it was like adjacent to the elementary school that I went to. And we went on this tour of this grand old plantation house. I can still see the bright yellow and the trim in white.
Mm. Yeah.
And there was no mention of slavery. I went home and I told because I didn't know any better. I went home and I told my grandma, I was like, Grandma, they took, I called her Ma Ruth. Ma Ruth, they took us to see Hope House. And she was angry. She said, that ain't nothing but an old slave plantation. And I've been, wandering around this place as much as they let us all day long, and there was no mention of slavery. And maybe that was my first, like, really conscious
Okay.
understanding that, oh, there's something, I don't know, I didn't articulate it like that at the time, but there's something going on here, and somebody's not telling us about it. And I think later on, as a young adult, I started to wonder why there wasn't much mention from my grandmother about the things that because she was born in 1917, but her husband, my grandfather's grandmother, had been enslaved, but there were
Mm.
very few stories. Very,
Yeah.
very little was said about it, and I started just to wonder why.
Yeah. So where so was this place you say no mention of slavery. What was the place
Oh
you were
no.
visiting?
It was a plantation house. It had been a slave plantation, like
Okay.
a tobacco
So
plantation.
I mean, what was the point of going there? 'Cause was it just no mention of it, or was it that was it, I guess, made light of?
It was just not mentioned. It was just,
Wow.
so this was
Wow, okay.
what, like, maybe the mid 80s? It had to be early 80s, something like that. And I'm pretty sure some teacher just said, "Hey, let's take the kids to see," you know.
So you're walking around so you're walking around a plantation house, and you're supposed to think this place looks
Is
cool,
you
like it's
just
historic
supposed to
and
think it looks cool, it's
okay.
historic, you bring your lunch, you eat your ham sandwich there on the
Okay.
lawn.
Yeah.
They show you the beautiful furniture and some of the rooms. They told us, I believe, about the history of the owners who lived there.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Um, but if there was mention of the people who worked there, then they were termed servants.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
servant and slave is not, at least in my mind, certainly not the same thing. So there
Certainly not.
was, there was really no mention at all of the fact that people had been enslaved, forced to labor on this plantation. There was none of that. I think maybe that was, um, unfortunately, typical of the time. We don't talk about, these are things that we don't talk about. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. Okay, so we'll kind of come back to more of
Hmm.
that and kind of make it kind of an inform where we're at today. So for This Here Is Love, your amazing debut novel,
Thank you.
that is just, I meant to grab it. Mine's upstairs. I was gonna hold it up for everyone to see.
No worries.
Just so good. I can't believe how you're able to weave those stories all in and out throughout the whole book, and then just that the how it all comes together in the end is just really, really, really powerful. Um, for This Year's Love, why did you feel, I guess, called and committed to working on it for so long? Because I know it took, you know, via you and via my mom, a long, long time, long process.
Yeah.
Why did you feel like um, now was the time to get it out? And I don't know, I guess, like, kind of what was your hope for people to take? What did you want readers to take away from it? I guess maybe even specifically as you're thinking about how racially charged everything is right now. Because I think about how uh, censored and whitewashed and history is
Hmm.
becoming even right now. You said you're a big, historian, and so I just wonder. Maybe I'm answering my question for me, but what kept you motivated to do all this research and write a fictional story like this?
Well, I think that a few things. Like I said, I'm very, there are lots of narratives that say, I think in the last, since, well, just let's be honest, since 2016, there are lots of narratives about people of color, unfavorable narratives about people of color. And there are lots of also tangible negative outcomes like health outcomes, income, lack of generational wealth. And I'm speaking here especially for specifically for African Americans, because that's what I know best. And also narratives in which, and these are not new by any means, in which African Americans are shown to be people prone to being criminals or not making the most of their opportunities
Yeah.
in this country. And at some point, it just, I just started thinking about, okay, well, one, I don't buy that. And two, why does no one ever talk about the context of how we got to this place where there are these disparities in health, where there are these disparities in income? And I know I probably wasn't thinking of all of these things consciously at the time, but I wanted to know, like, how did it happen? And so again, coupled with my interest in slavery, what I learned and thought about and wanted to show in the book is that, you can't take labor, you can't keep people ignorant, you can't deprive them of their ability to develop as full people
Yeah.
for 246 years and then just say, hey, you're free, go get them. You can't,
Yeah.
things don't work that way. And I was, I think I'm sorry if I'm jumping around, but one of the things that is in my head was that I think it's Faulkner who said the past isn't dead, it's not even past. Um,
Mm,
we are living those legacies. We are living those legacies every single day. In my family, My siblings and my parents never owned their own house. My parents worked as sharecroppers. My dad worked as a carpenter. My mom worked jobs in cafeterias and things like that. They are the children of sharecroppers until their I think I was born when my mom was a little younger than 30. So, and I was her first child born in Virginia. So I was the first child that that was born to them when they didn't live on a farm doing agricultural work.
Mm,
Neither of my parents was able to graduate high school. Their parents didn't graduate high school. That my grandparents mostly went as far as elementary school. My grandma Rachel worked as a farm worker until she was no longer able to
mm,
do that kind of work. So, at what point were they supposed to? And they are just like they are. That's anecdotal, but they are also emblematic of generations of people. The vast majority of them, when were they supposed to, how were they supposed to catch up or make the most of opportunities that they maybe weren't even aware of and had no access to? So that's one of the things that this book is about. Like, how did we
yeah.
get here? How did we get here where we have these ideas about who people should be and what they should be doing with their alleged opportunities and bootstraps and all that stuff? How can we totally dismiss the past? And that's what I was interested in, that past. I don't think it can be dismissed.
Yeah, absolutely. How do you I mean, as you've gone through this process of putting this out and maybe even conversations from the reception from your book,
Hmm.
have you had any opportunity to explain what you like in your ideal if you had all the power to implement all the change that you're touching on? Like what are the things that would be different? Because I think like uh of course I know you know this, like people might hear you what you just said and kind of narrate your own story
Hmm.
and the plight of African Americans broadly speaking and push back and think it's even if they're well-meaning. Like I even think
Hmm.
well-meaning people are sometimes the hardest to explain this to, who aren't like adamantly opposed. They're like, yeah, yeah, but do we have to attribute everything to slavery? Like I think someone might hear what you're saying and think
Hmm.
that's okay. Yeah, yeah, slavery is horrible. I hate it. It feels impossible to move past that. What can possibly be done about that? Like, do you just want us to teach about it more? How do you get away from the back of our mind feeling like it just feels like a lot to always be like, oh, slavery, oh, slavery, oh, slavery? Does that make sense? Like, how do you reconcile those? I don't know, those two extremes. Because I'm like,
Hmm.
I'm with you. I'm like, this makes sense as much as math makes sense. Like
Yeah.
two plus, yeah. So, but if if we want to work together with people, like,
Yeah.
how do we acknowledge? I don't know that train because like, how do you get around those stereotypical and problematic stereotypes of like, well, slavery ended and like what, like your parents or grandparents could have taken these opportunities or like this. I don't know. Like, does that make sense?
It kind of, I think the first thing that came to mind when you were saying that is, well, when have we ever really taught it? When have we ever really talked about it? So, can we ever get past something that we never acknowledge or delve into or explore in the first place? It's kind of like we just keep kicking the can down kicking the can down the road, as they say. And well, we have to get past this. We have to let this go. It's in the past. Maybe all of those things are true, but at what time in the past did we ever face it? At what time in the past did we ever have a real conversation about it? At what time in the past did we ever talk about the real realities, the real outcomes? At what point in the past did we stop saying, "Oh, this is so uncomfortable. I don't want to do it. Just get over it." That's my gut reaction. Um, to the rest of it, I would say, again, the past is a thread. It doesn't just go away. I mean, think about some of the things that we are, that we're facing in the news today, these ancient rivalries and hatreds that started before any of us were born, and they're on our news every day. So
Mm,
at what point did that go away? At what point, when are we going to deal with those things like straight on? When are we going to talk about, like, really talk about the inequalities on all sides? And I don't think there's one answer, and I don't think there's an instant solution, but I do think that we have to have frank conversations about these things. And I would say one more thing: if we had been having frank conversations about these things, then I don't think my book would have gotten the reception that it has gotten. Many people tell me that these are things they did not know about, and they're so glad that I, wrote this book. And I was just trying to figure things out for myself. I didn't know that other people would react this way.
mm,
I needed to go and find information and kind of pull it together for myself to get some kind of understanding. So when did we ever do that? That's what I'm saying. When
oh
did
yeah,
we ever do that? And how are these things going to go away until we do that?
yeah,
That would be my
absolutely.
answer. Hmm.
When people give you that kind of reception, does it feel like a catch-22 a little bit? Like it feels worth it on your end and a compliment, but also, do you ever feel like, as well read as I know you are, well, no, there are other stuff out there. People just don't
Hmm.
want to read them now, or we're being
Yeah,
told we can't read them.
yeah. I, you know, don't exactly like this. It's the things are there, but they are hard to read. They are hard for me to
Yeah,
read,
I was gonna say
and
because I saw it. Like, congratulate you won the award, the Zora Hurston
that was,
uh,
yeah. That when I was in graduate school, I
when
was,
graduate
yeah,
school. Okay,
second
well, anyway,
place. Yeah,
I mean, I read her. Was it Their Eyes Were
there as
Watching
you're watching
God
God.
in
Yeah,
grad school as well, and
yeah.
your writing before I even knew that you'd won that. Your writing does remind me
Thank you.
um, of her, like fantastic, but it's very distinctly different as well. But part of my pushback when I think about that, I'm like, well, also there's other authors out there that
Yeah,
aren't
yeah,
as renowned as the quote unquote classics that
yeah.
we're all expected to read. That's the one thing that would come to my mind of like, well, a huge step would be, okay, well, let's reclassify what are the classics and like let's make those
Yes. Yeah,
standard that we're
yeah,
learning up and down, not an elective that 5 people are going to take.
yeah,
Let's have it be
yeah,
no, this is mandatory, just like
yeah.
uh, all these other people who
Like,
some of them are fine, but a lot
yeah.
of them are not. And who established that? Yeah, and so those are threads that I constantly follow. I'm like, this is how partly we got here is
Yeah. Is
education.
we're saying these books count and these books don't. These
Yeah,
stories count and these stories don't. And I think that the hard stories, the hard stories are the easiest ones to say, okay, I don't want to read that. I'm not ready. Let's not tell that story. That's going to make us all uncomfortable. That's going to bring up things that we've buried. For instance, I did not know about, I don't even know, I had to be in my probably 20s. I never learned about the internment of Japanese Americans until I read Snow Falling on Cedars.
yeah,
And I'm like, why did no one tell me this?
yeah,
Why? Why wasn't this in any of the books that I read, as a student of history in high
right.
school, in college? Fiction was the thing that brought that home to me. Fiction was the thing that made me go look for other resources about the internment of Japanese Americans. Same thing with the Holocaust and things like that. I mean, the Holocaust, of course, was touched upon, but a real understanding, not until I sought that on my own. And I think that, as you were saying, like, if we rearrange the canon, if we have more people of color and different religious backgrounds, ethnicities at the table when we're deciding what's going to be read, I think at least we leave the breadcrumbs so people can find the knowledge on their own.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. What would you say when you say the question or make the declaration that we just haven't had these conversations? What do you say to people that are like, what about Dr. King? Like, didn't he doing conversations around his time? What would you say about ending Jim Crow, ending like segregation, Brown versus Board of
Board of
Education, all that kind of stuff?
Education.
Like, what? Playing devil's advocate, of course, but what would you say to people that are, well, what was that then?
What do you mean, like, what was that? Like,
To me, that would signal, broadly speaking, a time where those racism was being addressed pretty head on.
okay. And yes, but have we consistently kept going with those conversations? Like, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
right now it feels very much like we are in the midst of being our government trying to our present government trying to drag us backward into and erase history, take names off of monuments, shut down conversations. So, yes, those were times when we took on racism head on. Did we keep doing it? Were we
Mm-hmm.
consistent? Did we say, okay, the problem solved, let's move on? Um,
Right.
and if we didn't do those things, if we were having ongoing conversations, if we were integrating into our educational system, and maybe we blame everything on the educational system, I don't know. But at some point our focus changes. And I
Mm-hmm.
don't think this is just about, black, white, racial relationships. I'm thinking about, how are women treated? How
Yeah.
have Asian Americans been treated, since the pandemic? When do we ever have conversations about what's going on with Native Americans in
Yeah.
this country? And maybe we can't, maybe we could just do better. I mean, again, there's no one magic bullet, but we can do better. I think we can do better than what we're doing, as opposed to, like, oh, Native Americans were dispossessed of their land how long ago? Well, they should be over it by now. What?
Yeah.
What? This is generational trauma.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, it just kind of, to me, it makes sense to me to think that if you harm the parent, that harm is somehow going to be transmitted to the child, who is going to grow up in that trauma and transmit it possibly to their children. So these things go on and on, when,
Mm-hmm.
it just doesn't go away. That's my long-winded answer. It just
That was
doesn't
great.
go away. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I put you on the spot. Those are just, I'm sure you have way more conversations, but things that come up in conversations I have with people of, well, it's not that this has never been addressed or never been a thing. It's like, okay, I mean, yeah, we can point our finger on a timeline and say, sure, this was happening then,
Yeah.
but too many people, in my experience, stop there and don't understand the context of things that are going on.
Yeah.
It's not as if, fast forward to today, of course, it is better than when there was legal
Yeah.
chattel slavery. Like, no one is
Yes.
saying, so like,
That
so
is the
this
same.
whole,
No.
yeah, this whole notion that black and brown people should just be grateful because we're not back then. It's like, there, right there. That's
Right
why. That's the
there.
problem.
That's
The
right there.
thankfulness thing.
There, right
That's
there.
the problem, and that's why there's these, history. There's always something side by side. The progress that's being made, working against it from actually being progress. That's
Yeah.
what I would continue to take note of. I mean, one of the most, most recent ones. I think most people understand this a little more than maybe 5 to 10 years ago. But I mean, you would always hear, "Look, it's over. We got a black president. Case closed." And it's like, okay, now, given what it was in the White House now for the second time, but then also before that, I'm like, but have you like read into how President Obama became president? Like, it wasn't an overwhelming heart change in the entire country. It was despite
Yeah. In
tons
spite
of
of, yeah,
opposition,
yeah,
not one like by white people not wanting it to be so. Like
yeah,
that's not progress. It came with, record amounts of black and brown people voting for him. Like
yeah,
that's why. It's
yeah,
not because there was this heart change in
yeah,
all of America.
yeah,
Um, and then I think the response to who followed is a
yeah. We're
that kind
living
of
the
says it all.
backlash. I think we
Right.
are living in a backlash against against um the just the image
Mm-hmm.
of a person of color being the person, being the leader of the United States. I think that, yeah, I think that we are dealing with that backlash. And I think that it shows as far as we hoped we had come, as far as even I thought, we had come,
Mm-hmm.
we still have a long way, and a lot of hearts I mean, it sounds like a cliche, but a lot of people, I think, were angry, resentful, mystified
Mm-hmm.
maybe by there being a person of color as the leader of this country. And I think we are living that backlash now.
Yeah. Person of color, perhaps one of the maybe the most over qualified,
Mm.
candidates we ever had in the in the
Yeah,
White House.
yeah,
Just, I mean, facts. If you look up
yeah,
education, professional background.
yeah.
Okay, your book.
Hmm.
Again, I don't want to spoil anything or cause you to spoil anything, so I want people to read it. You guys absolutely should read this if you're listening. It's a must.
I have my copy. Hold on.
Great. I left mine upstairs. Thank you so much for your autograph and short note to me in my copy. I'm so
Thank
thankful for that.
you. Thank you.
Oh yeah. Um, what could you give? Pitch sounds like a too kitschy of a word. Um, a summary of what your book is without spoiling it and what people could expect from it, I guess.
Okay. It follows primarily three characters: Bless, who is a young enslaved woman; David, who is a young enslaved man, but his father is free; and Jack, who is European, and he's an indentured servant. So his father has indentured the family to buy passage to the United States so that they could have a better, well, it wasn't the United States then, to the colonies, so that they could have a better life. And at the root of it, I think what I was asking myself was how, so all of these three characters are all living in similar circumstances. They have parents who are not wealthy and don't have power, don't have a lot of say so or any at all. They are economically impoverished, and they are all born into a colony that is forming the idea of racial slavery. So then, how, in the case of Bless and David, how do you socialize? How do you try to socialize or educate someone into being a slave or being enslaved? And in
Mm,
Jack's case, who like I said is born into very similar circumstances, the only difference is his skin is white. He speaks English with an accent. That's, I
mm,
mean, in the most simple terms, those are the differences. Okay, and how do you take this boy and teach him that he should own another person?
yeah.
Um, and so the book is about how the three of them are embroiled in slavery and how they resist or try to resist, and sometimes how they fail to resist slave enslavement, or and becoming um, an enslaver, and how it shapes them, and how they resist it. and at what cost to their humanity, for
Yeah.
all three of them. Yeah.
Yeah. I think you did an amazing job illustrating the tension, moral dilemmas that those characters were going through.
Thank you.
Yeah, just when they would have opportunity to better themselves in certain instances, or maybe they wanted to be more adjacent to an upper class person, or hey, I don't give stuff away, but I just thought you did a great job with the dialogue between the characters, with one of them saying, I think trying to convince himself that he can make a certain decision and feel better about himself. And then I forget the name, but the other person who was trying to talk his way out of it or through it with was like, no, you're just a slave owner. You can't have it
Yeah.
both ways.
You
And
can't
you're not
have
gonna
it
act
both
like you're
ways.
better than me, even though he probably was a little better than that guy, because
Yeah.
he wasn't as heinous and cruel. But he's like, nah, you're not gonna toe the line and make it
No.
act like I'm the one that's bad. Like, you're either gonna be in this with me, or
You're in or you're out.
you're in or
Yeah.
you're out. And
You
that's
can't
where
have it both ways.
I think the first half of our conversation is so beautifully demonstrated in this historically fictional account, and it's just I think you nailed it with just that dilemma. I'd wonder if you see these kind of conversations and tensions informing where we're at now. Like, do those kind of moral dilemmas that your characters are having, do you see that still now today, when you see maybe like people of color in power largely seemingly working against their communities, even if they say they're not? You know what I'm saying? I don't know. Do you feel like those are sentiments that are kind of informing anything where we're at today?
You know what? That's I can't say that's a question that I've thought, like consciously thought about a lot, but
Here, I have an example. Do you want to?
go ahead, give me an example.
This is maybe, it's probably a little too lighthearted, but let's go with it for a second. Like this isn't a huge moral dilemma. Snoop Dogg, him and like Nelly and them, they performed at the White House for Trump fairly recently, and then when
Yeah.
asked about it, I want to do a whole episode on celebrities and what we should think about that. But Snoop Dogg, everyone knows him, maybe the most
Yeah.
famous rapper in the world
Yeah.
across generations and demographics. But he essentially was just like, look, 30 minutes is not going to erase 30 plus years of doing work for my community. And that was kind of his thing. And I was just like, I'd wonder what you think about that, like that kind of thing. Not that he was a slave or anything like that,
Yeah.
but that
Yeah.
tension, like, why? Like, what? I don't know. What do you think about that whole thing?
You know, I'm going to answer this, I think, I'm going to answer this from my heart. I think sometimes sometimes it's hard to put the welfare of others above what's immediately good for us. And, you know, I can't say that, I mean, I know I've listened to Snoop's music or whatever, but I can't say that I'm a fan or whatever. And I can't say I'm not a fan. I've got some, I've known the music. I grew up in that era. But was that putting a stamp of approval on that administration? And to what end? Was that saying that this is not as bad as we feel in our daily lives that it is? And what was the gain or the payoff for him? Because for me, it does make me wonder, um, if a person can so easily align with powers that are obviously not working for the benefit of most people of color.
Hmm.
What does that mean? What does that mean? Should I trust you? Probably no. Should I trust your guidance? Should I trust your I guess that's it, your guidance, and should I trust anything about you? So for me, I can't speak for other people and say that it erases 30 years of whatever he says he's done.
Hmm.
But for me, it definitely gives me pause, makes me question his judgment. Um, the current government seems so set upon erasing and and undoing what progress African Americans, not just African Americans, but the progress that we've made toward equality, then how can you put a stamp on that? And I'm
Hmm.
sure maybe he had, I mean, I remember, hearing something about it. I was off the news for a long time after the last election. I remember hearing something about it. I don't know what his rationales were. To
Yeah,
me, it does not make sense.
right. I think that's great. I agree with everything you said. I think some of the context, I didn't delve insanely deep into it, but I had to know some of the things. I was like, he's got to have some. I gotta know. I gotta know some kind of rationale
Yeah.
here. Um, I do think like the community comment about it's not it's not going to erase 30 years of community organization and how much I have done for my community. I mean, he's done a lot and still does a lot, but he maintained that he was getting. I mean, he got money. I can't remember how much personal money he got, but he was promised, and I think they delivered. So that's the thing. Like it was promised by some, I think, billionaire with one of the firms who is friends with Trump, to give some kind of lump sum, a bunch of money directly to one of his foundations or community things he does. And so his rationale is, I'm getting unfairly critiqued. People just want to cancel me or read the headline. They don't know that
Yeah.
I'm doing this and that this is actually part of what was behind this. And so I think it's important to have some sober judgment when we do pick apart these people
Yeah.
online. But I'll say, like, that's good context to know. But I think I would echo a little bit more what you're saying of just the level of brushing aside. I think he's discounting too much of what his people, a lot of the African American community that he's working so much for, is going to naturally think. And I think it's too, and I don't know how aware he was of this element, which would be important to me, but it's too, in my opinion, willfully ignorant of, you're too big to not be able to do this a different way.
Yeah.
So to
Yeah.
me, there's too much. It comes back to me. I'm like, okay, like the fact that it's your friend who is the billionaire giving you the money, for you not to understand what's going on here is just,
Yeah.
it's hard for me to
Yeah.
digest
Yeah.
and believe. I'm like, why are you not seeing
Yeah.
you're being used, even though you're
Yeah.
one of those wealthy people in the world yourself? Like, you're
Yeah.
not being used as a one of the
It puts
faces of
this
black hip hop
stamp
performing.
of approval,
Right.
yeah,
Like, how are
on
you
that
not
administration,
seeing
yeah.
that that's what's going to happen? Fair or not, like,
Fair or
you
not.
you have to see it through the eyes of your people if that's who you're talking
And
about.
especially if people see the performance, but they don't know the context. So the things that you just told me about the foundation and things like that, those are things that I did not know. And how far into this are we? Like
Right.
heading into our second year of this. So then why not, if that's a rationale and that's the justification and that's the context under which this is happening, just tell people that
Yeah.
up front.
Yeah.
And maybe, I mean, maybe some folks would understand better. And again, I think for most people, however, what they're left with is that performance put a stamp of approval
Hmm.
on something that doesn't feel right, doesn't feel equitable. It doesn't feel like it's working for the good of anyone, in my opinion, but a select group of very wealthy people.
Yeah. Yeah.
So why put a stamp of approval on it?
Right. Completely agree. All right. Why I want to honor your time. Just ask you a couple more things. As you've been doing you were doing the research for your book, and also for those that don't know, the book, it's fiction, but it's historical fiction, and your research and the settings are local to the Tidewater area,
Yes. Yeah.
which is where, of course, I'm from and grew up. And
Yeah.
yeah, you've been, well, you grew up in probably North
I
Carolina and
I grew
757 area.
Newport, North Carolina until I was about 14 years old, then in Hampton and the peninsula in the
Okay.
College
Yeah.
area. Yeah.
So I mean, I really, so in another way, it was personal to me reading all the
Yeah.
about the Tidewater
Yeah.
area that I grew up
There's
in.
so much history here.
Yeah, so much history. So what was it like doing all that history and being where you were reading about all of this stuff happening versus just reading? I don't know. I feel like that takes on a different level
Yeah.
of emotion.
Yeah. Illuminating. It was so illuminating. There are these places, like just place names and walking down by waterside, getting exercise
Mm,
walking down by waterside for years and years and not knowing those are places where slave ships came in and where
mm,
slaves
yeah.
escaped to freedom. So illuminating and hard when I couldn't find like a little piece of information that I wanted to know, like it was really hard. There's a section that deals with the Great Dismal Swamp because there were runaways, Native American, African American, indentured servants who ran away there. And I wanted to find the original name, like what did the Native Americans call that place? They didn't call it the
Mm,
Great Dismal Swamp, of course. So lots of digging. I took a bus tour out there, so sometimes it was fun. Um, I made my friends crazy with some stuff like, let's go this place, let's go that place. I want to find a cotton gin. That was for another story, but I want to find this, I want to find that. So I enjoy the research part a lot, but mostly it's fascinating, illuminating, and it changes the way I understand my surroundings. And I'm
mm,
grateful for that. Yeah.
yeah. That was a really powerful personal element for sure. Reading through all the locations each chapter.
Who knew? Who knew this stuff?
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
think that kind of brings a full circle to what we're talking about education. I mean, I
Hmm.
grew up and got education in Norfolk. Like, why are we not learning
Why
about
did I not know this
outside?
stuff? Yeah. Yeah.
All right, I mean, how do you think? Sorry, how do you think? What do you want people to take away from after reading your book that can help? Maybe I guess we've been talking about this already, but help change things today. Does anything come to mind?
The thing that just popped into my head was resistance. So the characters, most of the characters in This Here Is Love are resisting oppression.
Hmm.
Some of them overtly. I think, it talks about, you know, rebellions on board slave ships and things like that, but also, you know, putting that extra bit of salt in the master's food or
Mm,
burning it a little bit. So I think one of the things that I took away while doing the research and the writing is that resistance to oppression was such a broad spectrum. And I also think that, again, because of where I grew up in North Carolina in the 80s, there was not a lot of talk about, I was not taught a lot about how people endured slavery and how they resisted enslavement. Um, we were taught, a lot of, there were gospel songs and there was gratitude and there was prayer, but there was resistance. And I think people need to know that there was resistance. And I
Yeah.
think that that very much ties into where we are now. There is, there was, there should be, there will always be resistance. People do not want to be, people do not want to live under um, tyranny. They do not want to be dominated. They do not want to be used as tools for someone else's benefit. People want to live their own lives and make their decisions for better or for worse. We all have a right to do that. Um, that's what the people in my book were doing, and I think that's what marginalized people have done through history and what we'll continue to do.
Yeah. Do you feel comfortable sharing ways that practical ways to resist that you would suggest or practice beyond? I mean, it could include this, I guess, but even the actual protesting in the streets type thing. But maybe even, you said it's a broad range, so a lifestyle. Like, what does that look like for you to
So
resist?
one of the things that I've been doing is I've been, calling my senators, and I've been signing petitions, and
Hmm.
sharing information with my friend networks, and talking about those things. For me, that's and writing and researching. For me, that's what it looks like. Like right now, I'm researching and writing, working on something else that is, looking at a similar subject matter from a different angle. And I'm still asking the questions. Why do people feel like it is their right to dominate other people? How do we get there? At what cost do we at what cost do we think we have the right to
Hmm.
dominate other folks? So for me, that's my way. That is my way. I think I've not been to a street protest since the murder of George Floyd. I have really complicated reasons right now for making calls and giving money as opposed to marching on the streets. I think I'm still trying to figure out what just happened in our last election.
Hmm.
And does someone who looks like me, woman, brown skin, does someone who looks like me, can I be effective in this moment?
Mm.
Because everything that I am, everything that I believe, everything that I want for this country, equity, that everybody has enough to eat, that everybody would have health care, that people would be able to afford housing, that was just rejected.
Mm. Yeah. Are
So
you
is
saying,
anybody
yeah, do you feel what I'm hearing? Correct me if I'm wrong. Are you
okay?
feeling disillusioned by the polarization in general? I mean, I know
Trying to go ahead. You finish.
are you feeling distrusting of, lack of a better term, the whole political landscape versus, I mean, I know, I can assume you are not happy with President Trump being in the White House right now, but
Mhm.
are you in a place of also feeling a little hesitant to support, I don't know, Democrats, or
N- n-
I don't
no,
know. Yeah.
I am where I am right now is that I am wondering, and I still wonder, the disparity between the two candidates was so great,
Hmm.
and the nation or the voters still chose Trump. And to me, it feels as though it was a rejection, not just of, it was a rejection, I guess, of not just Kamala Harris, but women, of
Mm.
women of color. And now we find ourselves in this situation where I feel that um, we're going to have to, like, so many things feel like they're falling apart. and we are going to have to claw our way back to the progress that we had made. And my question is, once seeing as how a woman of color was already rejected to do this job, am I someone who looks like me? Am I the person who can
Mm,
change this? Or does it have to be someone who is white and female, or white and female, or white and male? Are they the ones now who have to stand up and say, this just isn't right? Because when I say it, nobody listens.
mm,
That's what I
that's
feel.
okay.
Does it have
Yeah.
to be someone else? Does it have to come from within the majority community? Does that, because when, again, when I say it, when people who look like me say that policing is dangerous, that people should have health care so that everybody has good health outcomes, no, it feels like they don't listen. It feels like the country doesn't listen. So then I question, is my face the one that needs to be on the news protesting? Maybe it has to be someone who looks like the majority culture.
Mm,
So right now, the things that I am doing to protest, I am doing over the phone. I'm doing with letters. I'm doing with sending money, because I don't know that my face is the one and my voice is the one that they're going to listen to.
I see. Yeah, the line between cynicism and hope can be real thin sometimes.
Yeah. And I do still have hope, because every time I look at the television and I do see so many different people, and I'm going to be frank, and so many white people out protesting, I think
Yeah,
it restores
absolutely. Yeah.
my hope every single day. It's like, okay, this picture of cruelty that's being painted,
Yeah.
that is not it. That is not everybody. And hopefully that's not even the majority of people. There
Right.
is still hope. So yeah, I'm definitely still hopeful. I just don't know that someone who looks like me is the one who has to who can lead this fight to victory. I don't know. That's my honest answer. I don't know. I don't
Right.
know.
And I mean, I didn't even mean to imply. I mean, I definitely realize you have hope left.
Yeah.
For me, saying the line between cynicism and hope can be thin sometimes is because absolutely, like you should be.
Mhm.
Like I agree. I see exactly what your hang up is, but to me, it's a hopeless feeling to be like, maybe a Princess Perry shouldn't be the one out there protesting. I'm like, you absolutely should. Like that's crazy that you're not.
So maybe
That's
I am
crazy.
hopeless and I didn't know.
No, no, no. I mean, I understand why you're
Yeah.
hung up on that, but to me, that's a not a hopeless thing, but a disheartening notion because I
Yeah.
understand what you're saying. Because I'm like,
Yeah.
it's ridiculous to think that people, not think, but know that people aren't convinced by what you say, as
Yeah.
opposed to at
Yeah.
times a
Yeah.
more powerful white person. But I mean, I completely agree too because
Yeah.
I see it both sides. Like
Yeah.
I'm in Southwest Virginia, and my family will drive by little mini protests, which actually ironically are led by our neighbor who lives right down the street, and it's a bunch of middle aged to older white people holding signs and marching and
Yeah.
honking horns and stuff, and it's like that is very encouraging because
That
it's
is
like,
that restores my faith.
and it's
Yeah.
not like I thought all of them automatically vote for Trump, but it's just all right. There's people around here
Yeah.
that have our back, have people look like me and you's
Exactly.
back, and so that is hopeful. So I mean, I see both sides. I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it is gonna take like this demographic of people to come alongside us, but then also there's the also flip side reality of that sucks that that's true.
And it
Like
sucks
it
that that's
should
true.
only take us, or not even need to take anybody,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
some of this shouldn't be
Yeah.
happening. But no,
I would
I
say
completely agree.
also, again, that, I am quite sure that I'm also speaking from a tender place of feeling injured and hurt and harmed by the outcome of the last election. And maybe I'm still involved in that healing process.
Hmm.
Um, and I think that is, if I'm really honest with myself, I think that that is true also. Because, I just want to be like, you know, FAFO, Americans made their choices. Now they're going to have to live with it. But it hurts.
Hmm.
It hurts. you know?
Yeah.
And so I'm still, I think, working my way through that also.
Completely
Yeah.
understandable. Absolutely. Well, look, we're almost right about an hour, like almost right on the dot. To where
Yay.
I try, yeah, man, I try to
You
keep
did
it
a
for the
good job.
listeners so that it's we're not keeping it for too long. But I could, of course, do this for another hour with you. But thank you so much for coming on here and sharing your
Yeah.
thoughts. Thank you so much for the work you put out. Is there, you mentioned working on something. Is there anything you can share about that you're working on that I can be hopeful looking forward to see from you?
I can only tell you that I finally made it into the 20th century with my research.
Okay. Okay.
Can only
Gotcha.
tell you that. Yeah.
Well, look, I appreciate you so much. Again,
Thank
shout
you,
out
David.
to my mom for hooking us up.
Shout out to Anita Harris. Yay.
Yeah. Some college students listen to this, and some of you guys go to ODU. So if you don't know who Princess Perry is, get in her classes, hit her up. She's obviously an amazing person to know
Thank
and to
you.
talk to. Princess, we'll have to get together next time we come through Norfolk.
It's town. Yep.
Yeah,
I want to see
absolutely.
those kids.
Yeah. Oh man,
All right.
they're getting big.
They're getting
They're
big.
all
All
upstairs
pictures.
because they haven't been in school for 2 weeks now.
So the snow.
There's just you can't see.
I don't.
There's just full of snow everywhere.
Oh,
Yeah.
and we can barely get an inch around here.
I mean,
I love snow, and it comes at night when you can't see it, and it's gone by the morning. So I'm just over
whenever you want, just come up here January, and we are the place. I mean, there's what happened is we got like 8 inches. It froze because it got down like single digits, and then 4 or 5 came on top of that. So
we
it's
can
just
only dream of that.
it's crazy. Yeah,
We
I
can
don't
only
think they're
dream
ever
of
going
that
back to
here
school.
in Southeast. They'll go back. Thank you, David.
Absolutely. All right, listeners, thank you so much for listening. The music you're listening to is done by our guy Dylan Dent, and our artwork was created by Ashley Bush. And we'll see you guys next time. Peace.
Life in 3 dimensions got me bent and got me twisted. I know I done said a lot, but I should probably stop pretending. I don't really hold the key and I can't really push a button. I just step up to the mic and try my very best to bust it, but I ran out of breath. It's tight in my chest, my feet just might fail. I can't stand the pressure. The nightmare might scare you, no worse than reality. They hunt you by day, R.I.P. Ahmaud Arbery. Everybody got a time, but that's less than comforting. I hope I'm alive by the time they choose to comfort me. Mosquitoes in the vein, or leeches on my soul. This money on my mind is a fracture in my bones. You get crippled by continuing existence like a ghost. And they wonder why we drink, and they wonder why we smoke, and they wonder why we think that everything's a joke. I'm shocked that we can sleep, must be the thought of letting go. Now I lay me down to sleep, I'm fed up with the valley. Now I lay me down to sleep, I'm fed up with the valley. Now I lay me down to sleep, I'm fed up with the valley.